everyone, this is Ajay Shah and you are watching Ajay's Costing Concept. We are here to discuss a videos on, or we are here for the series of case study digest. Now today we are discussing one new point or one new amendment, one new concept which has been introduced in this case study digest, and recently in amendment section this has been brought by AJAY. A concept which is in advancement of just in time. So we have already taught just in time, we have already covered questions of just in time, right? There were 3 questions of just in time which we have covered in our previous lectures or previous videos, that you can go through the previous videos, right? Further, now this is a concept of advancement of just in time, a question of Kanban card system, what we call it as case scenario 2, what they have asked on Kanban card system, right? So basically, first of all, we need to understand that what is a Kanban card system and why they have introduced, or what kind of question they have covered over here, what are the expectations that you should be taking, and what are the things, or what is the concept that we need to learn over here, right? So understanding Kanban card system. What is Kanban card? Basically, Kanban card is a Japanese term, right? It was first introduced in the company Toyota, as we already know, and this was the first system. Very important to understand is Kanban means visual Kanban card, it is known as, it is Japanese word, and although we also got as Kanban card or Kanban card is called it as. So Kanban, what does this mean? Kanban system is. So Kanban system, the Kan word means visual and the ban means a signal. So a visual signal is known as Kanban card, right? A signal which is achieved visually is known as Kanban card. So what exactly this Kanban system, or what exactly this system is? See, just in time, we already know that what is just in time is, it is something where whenever we require a production or whenever we require material, it is directly dispatched to the floor space, right? And from there the production gets started, right? So there is no question of holding an inventory, there is no question of maintaining stocks, there is no question of storage over there. Directly such suppliers are being searched or looked, or such suppliers the companies work with, who directly deliver the products or who directly deliver material to the floor space. From there the production starts. So we need to have such kind of suppliers to whom it would be easily available, and within the time duration, lead time what we expect shall be the goods available, right? So in that case, what are the bullet points that we go through, right? As I said, the bullet points in just in time is that the supplier must be such, we should be able to we should know that such suppliers are available. We should know that there is no storage cost, there won't be any storage cost, there won't be loading, unloading, wastage, scrap cost, right? The quality is to be maintained. So for that quality, a prerequisite visits should be done to the supplier's location to understand whether the quality as required is achieved or not, or available or not. Because normally what happens is that once you receive the goods, you go for the quality check and then you go for the production, right? So that process is eliminated just in time, because as the raw material is directly dispatched to our production flow. So this Kanban card system, what it talks about, that it says that there should be a visual signal given to the suppliers or customers, right? From our floor space to the suppliers. Now, how the visual signals work? See, I'll just give you a small example, that when we visit some restaurants, when you order something, right? So what happens is that you order a vegetable or a curry, whatever you call it as, and you order chapatis or naan, whatever you call it, right? So basically what you start is, you start with a single piece of naan or 2 naan to order, and then you say that we shall give you, or we shall let you know how further we will have, right? So then what happens, once you have a 1 or 2, then you again call it to the waiter or the serving person and ask them that 1 more naan or 2 more naan. So that is a visual signal that you give. So before you finish your that chapati or naan, you will make sure that a visual signal is provided to that waiter or a serving person, and he will again make sure that the arrangement is that you should not wait. Once you finish this, you should not wait for your next. It should be available on your plate so that you can eat. There is no question of waiting time while you're having your food, right? One more example I'll give you on this same, that there is this is where what we have observed is there is a brand named as Barbecue Nation, right? So in India there is a brand named of Barbecue Nation. Recently, its IPO was also announced, right? So this brand, what Barbecue Nation, over there, if you have your lunch or dinner, what is that? They will serve you the barbecues first, and there's a flag system over there. So what you have is you have a standing flag over there, right? So this kind of standing flag is over there, right, on the table. So once you have your barbecues and you are ready for your main course, or once you have your starters and you want to go for a main course, what happens is you have to just flip this flag downwards. So then your flag goes downwards, and the moment the flag is flipped to the downwards, there is a signal given to the staff that we are done with the barbecues. Do not serve the barbecues further. We will have the main course now. So that is how they will make sure that the tables are cleaned, and they will make sure the main course are served accordingly. So this is what the Kanban system is, right? Exactly. So this is what we have observed. As I said, I always say this in my classes, that costing is this SCMP is something which is more of practical that you need to implement, right? So Kanban system, if you observe, if you go to Barbecue Nation next time, what the owners or management call it as, I don't know, but I personally have observed that this is a Kanban system where I'm giving a visual signal to the owners or the person who are serving, the waiters, that I'm done with the barbecues, I'll go for the main course. Similar, that flag, if I flip off downwards, that is a signal what I give, right? So this is the way it worked in Toyota, right? What happened is, nowadays we have a computerized system where one single entry or the computer calculation augmented what augmented reality, that's AR visuals, what you call it as, they automatically signal it up. They make sure that a visual signal is being provided to the suppliers for supplying the same or for supplying the material. But how much material to be supplied, what quantity they should be, what time it should take. So all those calculations, what the Kanban system does. Now, in those when it was introduced first in this concept of Toyota, what they used to have is they made sure that there is a small Kanban size. You understand? Now I'll explain what is Kanban size. I also call it as Kanban, whatever you understand. Kanban size is something which is a predetermined or prerequisite size that to decide that it will be required on the next production. So if I'll give you an example that we start with the production in the next batch, we will be producing 1000 units, and for that 1000 units, say if raw material required is 1 kg per unit. So basically you are requiring in a 1000 kg, 1000 units into 1 kg. So 1000 kg of raw material would be required for you for the production. So you will give a signal to your the suppliers that before we start with this, we require 1000 kg of material or of the raw material to be at our floor space so that we can start. And once you start, before that ends, according to the lead time, right, on the basis of the lead time or on the basis of the time difference that he may deliver it to you, you again do a signal that next batch of 1000 is just about to start. So we again need 1000. That is known as Kanban size, where a prerequisite size we already know that we would be requiring this much units, and that is what signal we shall be delivering, right? Every time, what is the just-in-time says that whenever you need a production, whenever there is an order, we have learned a just-in-time purchase concept, just-in-time production concept, right? So produce as and when required, correct? Purchase as and when required. So every time you might not be able to make sure that if there are 6 requirements in a day, a supplier might not be able to deliver you 6 requirements in a day at a single time, or although every hour or 2 hours. So basically this is a signal that you produce that before we start this batch, this is the lead time that you have, kindly deliver this many goods into this lead time. That is what a signal based Kanban system is all about. Further, how this Kanban system works is, in those days Toyota, when they implemented, there was a yellow signal line that was given. So I will just provide on a system or the yellow lights, or I will make sure the flags kind of thing would be attached to my products, where I am giving a signal that the moment this is yellow over here, I need this many units further. So what happens? Normally you will not, if you require 1000 units, normally you will not go and shout it, or you will make an announcement or you will go and call your supplier. These things might get delayed. Because of these things, you might get delay in the production might stop, there will be a shortage, and there are various losses that we bear, right? Because of goods not being available. That is again was one thing that just-in-time prerequisite is that you should make sure that the goods are available whenever they are required. If they are not, you will not be able to produce. But if you are not able to produce, you have various kind of overhead costs that you incur, as well as the client satisfaction which is required is not achieved or is not met. So considering that fact, what things you should take care, or what things we should be understanding is that whenever there is a signal is given that this many, so in that case of signal, you will not go and shout, you will not call, because you might that step might get skipped, you might get late. So and how the signal should be produced or how the signal should be reached, that is how this Kanban system works. So basically, if there is a production line, if I explain it from here, so basically in this scenario, if I explain it over here, so there is a person over here, there is a production line going over here. He requires 1000 units, and there are boxes kept over here where he requires 1000 units to be fulfilled. So what happens is, he will make a signal over here, kind of, just I'll just give you example that he will put a kind of uh, red flag over here. The moment he puts red flag over here, what does this mean? This means that we are requiring a material. My flag is red, so I am basically in requirement of a material of, as the site will have been prerequisitely decided. So this signal, he will not shout, he will not call, he will make sure that okay, come do this, not nothing. So he will just put a red flag over there. So a person somewhere from else, or a person who is supplier, or who is giving this product, or who is giving this units, he will understand that okay, there's a red signal there, so that means now I have to fulfill this requirement, or I have to make sure this is to be delivered. This is what a Kanban system was. So basically it's just a visual signal that you're giving. Nowadays it has become augmented, everything is computerized. Your system itself calculates what is the stock that you have, what lead time it will take, but this was what was introduced at that point of time. Now this Kanban system transportation, what we have, so there is a Kanban transportation. Further, I'll even calculate what is Kanban size, or how to calculate that. But transport, this is Kanban transportation as two ways it can be. It is 2-bean transportation and 3-bean transportation, right? What is 2-bean, 3-bean transportation? Now see, every time we will not be able to make sure, our supplier might not be able to make sure that he would be able to deliver the goods as and when required, right? Every time it might not be so. So in that case, what could happen is that there is a system of 2-bean system. 2-bean system means what? That one bean goes for the production. The moment one bean goes for the production, we already have one bean kept with our supplier. So we signal to our supplier that this one is already in the production, make sure that you keep it ready for the next bin, right? The next size, right? That is what we call it as Kanban size, or Kanban bin, what we call it as. So for example, if as I said, what example I gave you? I give you an example of restaurant. So the moment you're eating one naan, or the moment you're eating one chapati, you will signal it to the waiter or the server that then kindly keep the next ready, right? I am already having this. So before I finish this, make sure that you deliver the second one. This is what the 2-bean system is all about talking. So we already produce, the moment we have in the production, one bean is already kept by the supplier anytime he wants to deliver. So the moment you do a signal, that bean is either the supplier will deliver to, or your person will go and collect it from there. He will come here, he will empty that bean over here. So the moment he will empty that bean over in the production floor, again one bean is kept ready by the supplier. This is known as 2-bean system, right? 2-bean system is what? That one bean is already kept as a kind of, you can consider safety stock or precautionary stock, so that it doesn't get delayed. So the moment that bean gets empty from supplier to a product floor space, the supplier is required to again refill that one bin and keep it with himself. So as and when required, that bin will be here, it will be dispatched to production floor. Again the bin gets emptied, the bin gets pulled by the supplier. Again the moment you signal. So this is a kind of precautionary or safety measures, what you call that, this bin updation will be done by the supplier. Another mode is 3-bean. What is the 3-bean thing? Now sometimes what happens is that the supplier might not be able to deliver you as and when required, and you might feel that there would be a chance because of some like abnormal issues or holidays or requirement, demand, whatever the case is. You might feel that you might not be able to receive this in a specific duration from the supplier. So what does the company does? The management does. They maintain 3 bins. 3 bin is, one is at the supplier's place, one is in the floor space, and one is in between before floor space, right? So basically at the floor production, if this bin is required, this bin is fulfilled, the moment this bin gets empty, a signal is provided, this becomes red. In our example what I talk about, this becomes red. So this moment it becomes red, this space from here is been delivered to here, and the moment it has been delivered to here, a supplier has been intimated to kindly fulfill this. So we basically have a kind of safety, or we basically kind of a stock, a small stock, because 100% accuracy might not be able to achieve when it comes to just in time. See, just in time has a prerequisite that every time you produce or every time you require kindly purchase or produce, but a lot of practical difficulties might be faced by the company. They would not be practically justifiable for them to give you, or they might not be able to deliver it as when required. So in that case, company makes a precaution. They maintain one bin, a bin size. How to calculate bin size, that I'll come to you, but before that, the conceptual knowledge what is more required. So in that case, the moment we use for the floor space, we again have one as a safety, that we bring it to the floor space and we signal to the supplier to fulfill before floor space one bin again. So that one bin gets fulfilled, supplier is also mentally ready or prepared with another bin that he has. 3 bin systems are maintained, one goes, second is been considered from the before the floor space, and the third is already available with the supplier. So there is no question of breakdown time, or there is no question of non-availability, scarcity of resources time, and the smoothing of business is continued. So for smoothing of this production, or for smoothing of purchase, this is what Kanban system was introduced, where you give a signal, right? So Kanban system, something you can remember from your restaurant signals what I gave. You give a signal that before I finish this, kindly get to the next one, so that I'll make sure, or you can make sure, that there is no breaks, or there is no downtime you call it, or there is no waiting time. The production runs as smooth as it can. Now the question comes that, sir, how we calculate Kanban size or number of Kanbans? So then the formula is, the Kanban size is C into LT into L into SF. C into LT into L into SF. Now what is this C for? C is consumption. What is the consumption that will be required? What is LT for? Lead time. How much is the lead time for that consumption? Now understand, remember one thing. What is the consumption that you will do? First thing. What is the lead time that will be required? Now whenever you do the lead time, LT stands for lead time. The lead time should always be in the terms of the consumption pattern. Remember, consumption pattern means if consumption is considered for weeks time, then lead time shall also be considered in terms of weeks. So if I say I have consumption of 4 days, then the lead time should also be considered in number of days. If I say the consumption is as per the weeks, the lead time should also be considered as per the week. The reason, because that is these two should be similar. The moment if they are not similar, you will not be able to get the right answer, and that is the reason why we should have a similarity between the lead time and the consumption. Third is L. L stands for location. As I said, normally there are 2 bins or 3 bins, right? The transportation system works with 2 bins. So one bin is at the floor space, another bin is at the supplier's place, from where the moment you do the signal, supplier will bring that, or your person will go and get that in the floor space, and he will empty it away. So what is the provider, what is the entity implementing Kanban? She keeps one container of material both the locations, then it is usually it is 2 unless otherwise provided. So there are 2 bins, there are 2 locations that you are maintaining, one in the floor space, one in the supplier space, right? So we already have 2 are required, 2, that is what L stands for. L stands for location, right? So what does the word stand? L is location of Kanban. Note, when so even any entity implement the Kanban, they keep one container of material at both the locations. That I said, one is at the production floor, one is the supplier. Minimum they will keep it this much, entity itself and the supplier. Hence, L is 2 unless provided. So, if nothing is provided, it may be you have to consider is 2. If something is provided, there are 3 bins or 3 location. If it is maintained, then you go for 3. SF. SF stands for what? SF stands for smoothing factor. Sir, what is this smoothing factor? Smoothing factor is normally what the smoothing factor is considered is 1. Very important factor can be 1. Sir, what is this? Smoothing factor means normally this is the size or this is the production, this is the pattern that we will follow, right? Sometimes what happens is the levels in the basis of the seasons, on the basis of the duration time, the production or the level stock throughout may not remain same, right? For example, if you are into a production of some seasonal product, the moment that season comes closer and closer, you might do more and more production, like umbrellas. The production of umbrellas is high in summers because the moment summer ends, the rainy season starts, and in that the requirement of the umbrella would be way more higher and higher. So in winters, the production might be lower, the summer gets close. In winters, it might be less, but when it comes to summer, the production increase. So smoothing factor is which is used to set off seasonal variations. So if nothing is given in the question, the smoothing factor is always 1. Obviously, if consumption level of stock out throughout the period remains same, then smoothing factor can be considered 1. Otherwise, they would also give you that. So consumption, lead time, if in days, this should also be days. If in weeks, this should also be in the weeks. Next, you have L. L stands for what is the location, how many locations that you have been maintaining, and number 4th is SF, that is smoothing factor. On calculation, this you will get Kanban size. That what is the size of Kanban that is required? Like as like EOQ size you have. Like it is a similar concept what EOQ have. EOQ is economic order quantity. That what quantity will you order every time, in the whole annual requirement basis quantity, you order a specific quantity every time you place an order. But just in time says what? Just in time says that order as and when required, or produce as and when required, purchase as and when required. So in that case, I cannot follow EOQ, right? Even we have done this kind of questions also, that if you are following EOQ, just in time cannot be followed by you, because EOQ says that only order a specific quantity which is most economical, right? The order size is fixed. Just in time it is not so. It is when, as and when it is required. So that is what Kanban size is over there, and that is how it will be calculated. In this question, we shall calculate Kanban size also, because they are asking us to calculate Kanban size and number of Kanban required. So I'll come to that, but this was the explanation of the formula. It is C, consumption, lead time. You may copy or it is already given. Consumption, lead time, L, and smoothing factor. L is location, how many bins that you will be maintaining. If nothing is given, it is always 2, and smoothing factor is always 1 if nothing is provided. Now, what are the, while calculating, what are the assumptions that we need to take? This is also one of this is what we call it as a universal concept, right? What is the, you know, that when there is an implementation of Kanban system, what are the assumptions that we need to have? The first is that it is constant, consumption is constant throughout the period, right? Else smoothing need to be used to calculate. If it is not constant throughout the period, the smoothing factor won't be 1. The smoothing factor might be keep on changing. Further, the supplier will deliver material directly to the point and assembly line. That is what just in time requires, right? That directly it should be produced, it should be available, or it should be dispatched at the your assembly line. And third is requirement in terms of space to store number of Kanban is made. So we normally do not maintain any storage or stocks, but the Kanban size what we decide, at least we should have a requirement to store that much Kanban size what we have to decide, right? So these are the basic things that are to be known, or these are basic things to be understood. Now, can Kanban be introduced in the non-manufacturing facilities also? Like Kanban originally was decided for manufacturing, right? But yes, it can be applied, very, very important. It can be applied for non-manufacturing concern as well, for smoothing of the workflow, right? For smoothing one, for rather inventory management. It is not the word, the concept of inventory management is for, it is for manufacturing entities. But when it comes to non-manufacturing entities, Kanban system is also implemented, can also be implemented for smoothing of this function. Smoothing of the function, like it is helpful for, it is a signal based, it is helpful because the signal based, I'll just give you an example. In our articleship also you would have learned that the your principal assigns you a job of, say for example, 3 clients, right? Let us say return filing of 3 clients. So if you start with a client A, you will give a signal to client B that I require the data for your return filing by tomorrow morning, because today you are serving client A. So what happens over here is that a signal is been given for smoothing function that by tomorrow morning the data of client B is available, so that there is no question of waiting time or idle time for you, and you can function accordingly. By tomorrow morning you can start with the client B. Again client C, again you give a signal tomorrow morning. The moment you receive data from client B, you give a signal to client C that now make sure your data is ready because I am working on client B as of now, and this will take a day or two, and once I finish this in a day or two, your data should be available with me. So that smoothing factor is what Kanban system is useful for. So Kanban system to be followed also categorize the work to do ongoing or in the case of smoothing system. This is what Kanban is. So let us come to the question now. Exactly, let us read about what is the case scenario that is being provided over here. But this is very important because something amendment, that is what they have introduced this over here. So I would always say that more than just in time, Kanban would be become important for this coming attempts, because just in time has been asked in previous, a lot of attempts, a lot of questions have been asked. Kanban being an amendment done, it becomes important for coming attempts. And this question specifically, let us read and understand on the basis of the conceptual learning that we have done, that what is Kanban is, right? So let us start further with the question now without wasting our further time. Case scenario 2. What is case scenario? Always, as I said in the first introduction class itself, it is a specific knowledge requirement of a specific area or a specific work. So that is what the specific question of Kanban is what asked over here. Surmount cable cars SCC engage in assembling of cabin used in ropeways in order to assemble cabin. 3 major parts of different shapes and sizes, are used. These parts are assembled with help of specially designed dome, nut and bolt made of brass, product called brass DIN 85, which are manufactured by Reliable Hardware and Metal Works. Plant layout design of SCC comprises assembly line where multiple products are assembled at one point of time. Hence, there are multiple workers who are using such nut and bolts simultaneously. Such nut and bolts come in set along with the washer and 3 types of spares collectively considered as set. So, this is a basic requirement how the nut bolts are required or what are the consumption that we have. Since the plant facility of SCC is situated in remote area, hence majority of workers are either unskilled or semi-skilled, and literacy rate is also low among workers. This causes variety of problems, including non-informing production supervisor about the reordering of such brass DIN 85, a class of store or spare times. Due to ignorance of workers in towards understanding of stock levels and their relevance, many times stock of such spares order later than it should be. So this is the issue. We are not able to receive the stock as and when it is required. It is received later than what it should be, right? Hence it gets out of stock. This further leads to stock out situation. In some of the cases results into contribution loss. So that is what the just in time is, that you never get in a stock out situation. That is how you should be followed. Reliable Hardware and Metal Works is a long standing supplier of brass DIN 85 to SCC. Hence, reliable is in term of both quality and delivery time. RHMW took single day as lead time to deliver reordered quantity. Whatever you order, the quantity that you order, it will take a single day, right? Despite the reliability of supplier, SCC wish to maintain safety stock, we will do 3 days of consumption. We require 3 days of consumption, right? As being a safety, though they can deliver it in a single day, but we have decided to keep it for 3 days of consumption. SCC is using latest version of SAP as enterprise resource planning, which is installed just 3-4 months back. Employees are being trained to use respective modules of SAP and integration among various functions modules is ongoing. Plant obviously works 6 days a week, and during a week period 1200 of brass units are required to be produced. Consumption of brass in is ordered assembly of cabin cars throughout the year. Very important. So now we produce, we require, we have 1200 units of brass that we produce are required, and that we are, for work we are working 6 days a week. So basically our consumption per day, if I talk about consumption per day, it is 1200 divided by 6 days, so that comes to 200 units. So we require 200 units per day. And why I am converting in a day? Because the lead time what we need to calculate as the formula that we have learned, the lead time and the consumption should be in a similar form. If it is days, lead time should also be in days. If it is in week, lead time should also be in week. So as lead time over every reduce, it take 1 day, we will require 1 day. Similarly, my consumption is converted into a day, and that is 200 units. But understand, we order on a safety stock equivalent basis, we make sure that 3 days consumption production facilities are maintained. So my consumption over here is 200 per day, but we maintain a consumption of 3 days. So basically in that case my consumption requirement becomes 600 units. I repeat this concept before we proceed forward. Understand, this is very important for you. Consumption per day is 200, alright, but when I'm calculating a Kanban size, or when I'm calculating Kanban, my consumption would be required for 3 days. On considering the safety stock measure that a company is maintaining, you would require Kanban for 3 days, and that is the reason why we are maintaining a stock for 3 days, and the consumption would also be 3 days, that is 600, and our lead time is 1 day. SCC during first phase of its drive to implement lean manufacturing is working on operational efficiency and tries to reduce inventory by introducing Kanban system. Now they are willing to introduce Kanban system. Explain the Kanban in inventory management to for entity like SCC. Also explain Kanban be applied to non-manufacturing entities. We said yes, it is not only for manufacturing. How non-manufacturing will be helpful is for smoothing their functions. The example of articleship what I gave you for your client's data management, right? And second is calculate Kanban size, number of Kanban required, and list the factors to be considered, specific precautions, prerequisites for. So this is something, again as I said, this question, these points are universal. This solution would be a universal concept, what we call it as, right? So this would be a kind of situation or scenario where you would be required, if the Kanban questions come, make sure you point out this few words or this few bullet points to your question or for the solution. That is what a very important is. That is what a learning that you should take from this question. That what are the universal points that we discussed? As I said in the introduction class, it said that universal points are the points where if this concept comes, you have to make sure that you write down those questions. Those points that are bound to be given by you, whether they have asked or not asked. It hardly takes that around a minute or two, but that 5-6 lines or 5-6 bullet points if you write down, it will give you additional marks and you will be able to score way better, right? So Kanban system is a visual signal based workflow management technique, as we discussed. It was introduced by Taichi Ono, an industrial engineer, developed first this system in Toyota Automotive in Japan. So it is a Japanese word, right? It can be used in full system of inventory where supplier supplies the material based upon consumption. Kanban, a yellow line originally used in Toyota. It may be a different kind. Originally it was used as yellow line. Then we have yellow signals. We have, right. So it depends. A lot of people are using those light bulbs to give a signal that the moment that bulb is on, that means you are required to make sure operation theater kind of things, right? So that is a visual signal was given to the worker that to understand that further material is required. Kanban reduce the cycle time and enhance the predictability in order to promote value to customer. Kanban system holds a specific amount of material, very important. Kanban system holds specific amount of material divided into Kanban size. So what is the specific amount of material that is required and which is divided into Kanban size for your maintaining of the product? While calculating Kanban size, as I said, there are three basic assumptions that you need to take. The first is that it will be throughout the period, so the smoothing factor would be 1. If not, it should be provided in the question or it should be calculated. Number 2, the supplier will be directly delivering to the floor space, and the number 3 is in the floor space there is a space available for storing that Kanban size. Now, non-manufacturing entities already discussed, it can be applied for smoothing of the functions. What is the formula to calculate Kanban size? C into LT into L into SF. If nothing is given, the L stands for location, that is 2, one at our itself and the another one is of the supplier place, right? Smoothing factor will always be 1. Consumption and lead time should be in the same numerators, or you can say in the same pattern should be followed. If days, then both should be in days. If weeks, both should be in the week. Consumption over here is 2 per day, right? It is 200 what we calculate, and lead time is 1 day, location is 2, again smoothing factor is 1 to be considered. How will you calculate? Therefore, Kanban size is 200 into 1 into 2, that is 400 units in each Kanban. So, in each Kanban there would be 400 units. 1 day it will take for them to provide you the goods. Consumption would be 1 day. 1 day smoothing factor is 1. 1 day consumption is of 200 units, right? And the lead time is 1 day. So, today if my Kanban is of 400, my Kanban size, the next size that I will order will be of 400, because the lead time it will take 1, right? So, it will take 1 day for them to deliver. In that 1 day my consumption will be 200, and for the next 1 day consumption of 1 day I will make sure that on the day basis consumption my production is required today. So, today something that I received, I produced 200, more 200 for 1 day lead time I have, so I required 400 today. By the time this gets over, I place the next order, again 400 are received, so that 200 are on the used, 200 are kept on the basis of the lead time. That is what you have learned in your inter also, lead time concept, right? Number of Kanban, how many number of Kanban would it be required? There would be, that is what it is calculated, quantity of safety stock and consumption divided by Kanban size. So, what is the safety stock that you are maintaining? We learned it was for 3 days, that is 600. And what is the consumption that you require? It is for 1 day into 200. So, your maximum inventory in the Kanban would be 800. So, every number of Kanbans, what is the number of Kanbans? Depend upon maximum quantity of inventory which comprises of demand or consumption during lead period and quantity of safety stock. It can be determined is as follows. So, you will always order 2 Kanbans, right? Sir, why we will have the Kanban size would be of 400 units, right? But we will have 2 Kanbans because 200 is already in the production, and we have a lead time, we have a safety stock of 3 days, that is 600 is available with us, right? So, that is what your number of Kanban should be. I repeat, we require 200 for consumption in a day, and the supplier, who is the supplier? That is R1, RH, the MW, right? He will take 1 day lead time. So, for that 1 day lead time, I will have 400 units of my Kanban size, or Kanban size, what you call it as, right? So, we will have 400 units, but the quantity or the number of Kanbans that you will order will always be 2. The reason behind that is you need a safety stock of 600 units, that is a consumption of 3 days. So, I should always have 600 as my spare or my safety stock, and 200 for my next production. So, I require 800. That's a common logic what we understand, or concept what we understand, that I require 200 and my safety stock should be of 600. So, basically every time I should have a stock of 800 units, right? And to have 800 units, my Kanban size is of 400 units. So, basically I require 2 Kanbans. Why I required 400 units of Kanban size? That is what we calculated: consumption, lead time. 2 bins would be maintained, one at your location, one at the supplier's location. So, one of 200, another one of 200. The moment you dispatch this 200 from the supplier has been delivered to you. So, there is a 400 total what they will be maintaining. That should be a normal Kanban size what you should have, right? What are the factors to be considered for prerequisites or what? The first that should be is that supplier should be ready into that Kanban size. Now, what not in IPCC or inter, what you learned is that your cabin size, sorry, your EOQ size, it is always economic order quantity, the quantity where the supplier is ready to deliver that amount of quantity. And there were questions like, if you order this number of quantity or this number of quantities are less than EOQ or higher, then supplier will charge something extra, he might not be ready to deliver, the lead time may be higher, the price will be higher. So the first prerequisite is supplier ready to supply material in the lot size what we have decided, can he deliver the same. The second thing what we need is supplier's participation and agree upon stock programming, right, whether he'll be ready to provide you the stock and a Kanban based system, Kanban card system, whether he'll be able to do that. The third thing is, will supplier agree on supplying directly material to the assembly line rather than going for a quality check, rather than going for a storage, directly the material are in such a way ready to use or put to use kind of material that your supplier will be able to deliver directly to the production line, right. And number 4, is the consumption pattern compromising significant variation constant throughout? If it is not constant throughout, the smoothing factor would be changed, right. Then you have to calculate smoothing factor. Do you have handling and storage of material? What is the requirement to do that? As I said, there is no question of storage, there is no question of handling in just in time. But for that Kanban size, do you have that much? Is it the prerequisite? Is it available? That space is available to you? And the last one is contribution margin of sale of product in which raw material is used. What is the contribution margin? This have a various factors, right. If the contribution margin is not much and implementing this system is way costlier or higher, because supplier might charge you extra, supplier might make sure that this ordering time or lead time should be fulfilled. So on this basis, if I consider these factors, these are the prerequisites, then only I can implement Kanban system. So universal concept, 6 points for the prerequisites. First thing is, will supplier be able to deliver? Second thing is, can he go for the participation, right? Is he eligible? Will he be able to deliver on the basis of cabin cabin size? Will he be agreeing for that? Number 3 is, will he be able to deliver directly to the material line, assembly line, right? Rather than going to the storehouse or warehouse, something like that. Fourth one is the consumption pattern same? Then only I can decide the cabin size, right? Otherwise, my smoothing factor will change accordingly. Fifth point is whether there is a space of that handling or the cabin size what you store. And the last is, what is the contribution margin? Are you able to justify this contribution margin before implementing your Kanban, right? Note, these factors have major impact in calculation of cabin size as well. Obviously, the lead time, the smoothing factor, right? What is the location that you are maintaining? All this will also matter, because C into L, LT into L into SF, right? That is what the formula is. Further, some specific precautions. What are the precautions that they must take? As I said, the first precaution is that worker are unskilled and illiterate. They should have a good knowledge to give a signal, right? The worker must be understanding the visual, understanding the visual cue. A training should be provided. When this is red, what is to be done? When this is green, what is to be done? A signal understanding should have with the worker. Very important. Number 2 is the consumption or demand pattern need to be predicted with a reasonable assurance. Every time your consumption pattern should be same. The smoothing factor should remain 1. If not, the smoothing factor will have to be changed. So this is the prerequisite what SCC should definitely make sure that it should be followed. And third is, it should have integration with the supplier. What is the suppliers? Integration is that the SAP is used as ERP, and the ERP must be able to give a soft signals or signals to our suppliers that kindly a kind of mail shoot or a pop-up message or a kind of signals, whatever coloring signals or what you provide, that this is a requirement and this is what should be fulfilled. So these are the prerequisites what they should follow. And as I said, universal points, what are the precautions, prerequisites that you should have? Can it be implemented? Yes. What SCC should take care? They should make sure that integration is done. Now this concept of integration or what SCC should take care, this is something which is, the bullet points are where you can suggest to any questions, any clients, right? Any companies what they ask, whether their ERP is integrated, whether their suppliers are ready to deliver, if their workers are not having this knowledge, kindly grant them the training, whether the company is whether the company is ready to accept the material direct to the production 4 line, right? It should have a reasonable assurance. That is what is required. The prerequisites are already decided and already discussed. So this is what a concept of Kanban system is, and this is a very important question when it comes to understanding of Kanban. How will you uh, understand, how will you calculate Kanban size, what are the number of Kanbans that are to be provided, right? And how the number of Kanbans should be calculated, how what is the formula. So once you calculate the Kanban, what are the things, once you calculate that, how will you calculate the number of Kanbans required. So once the Kanban size is decided, then you decide Kanban are required. Very important, very good question. This is something amendments that they have done, so it takes a added advantage or leverage for asking or for in the questions that has high probability of questioning your exam. Thank you. With this, we finish the concept of cabin, and I have already discussed this question. Scenario number 2 with you people. Thank you for watching this.